Good morning. How are you? Lately on Facebook, there's been this really fun game about 10 influential albums. And the point of the game was you had to choose an influential album that was important to you at whatever point in your life. You don't have to give an explanation as to why. Some people decided to, some people decided not to. Um, and then you had to tag a friend that day. So you had to do a series of 10 albums for 10 days, and you had to tag 10 different friends. And I thought, now I did it on Facebook, and I thought it was kind of fun. So I'm gonna go ahead and just kind of make a video about my 10 albums. And I'm not gonna tag anyone, and like this isn't like a vlog tag type deal thing. But if you want to go ahead and do it, then by all means, tag your it. This top 10, it's not in it's completely random order. There's no hierarchy. So I'm just gonna just top 10 albums that have been important to me at some point in my life. Before I do the actual top 10, I do have an honorable mention, and it is Robert Johnson's The Complete Collection. Robert Johnson was a blues guitarist, Delta blues guitarist, probably one of the best known Delta blues guitarists. There's a really fun story about how he met the devil at the crossroads and sold his soul for the ability to play guitar, and he died prematurely. He's part of the 27 Club. If you don't know what the 27 Club is, look it up. And but then after that, he was able to play guitar quite well. So there's this really nice myth that he sold his soul to the devil. However, Robert Johnson's really kind of the backbone of a lot of modern rock and roll, especially stuff from like rhythm and blues to the rock and roll of the 50s and 60s, and even today. It's just rooted in Robert Johnson, and I love every song he's recorded. He's only got like maybe like 25, 30 songs, something like that, maybe even less. But Robert Johnson Complete Collection. All right, on to the actual list. The first up is White Stripes' Elephant. I am a huge Jack White fan. I love everything this man has put out. Even the recent album Boarding House Reach wasn't my favorite, but I still like it a lot. Elephant came out at a time where there was a lot of just radio rock, and then here comes this duo of just a guitar and drums. And Seven Nation Army was a big song for me. That was like 2002, something like that, 2003. I can't remember. Anyway, great album. This is in my constant rotation. I never get tired of it. I love it. The next album is from my favorite band of all time. It's my favorite album from my favorite band of all time. Quite possibly just like my favorite album. Yeah, I think I'm gonna get. Yeah, I'm gonna bold statement. Favorite album of all time is the Beatles' Rubber Soul. This was the first actual Beatles album I purchased. I had like some compilations, like best ofs and past masters and stuff like this. So this was the actual first legitimate album that I purchased, and I can listen to this all day, every day, from start to finish. Another big album for me, whenever I was growing up, late teens, early 20s, was the first Strokes album, Is This It? Again, kind of along with the White Stripes, they were kind of spearheading this garage rock revival that we had in the early 2000s. And I remember coming home from work one day, and I was listening to the radio, and there was just nothing good on, and I didn't feel like listening to any of my CDs. And the DJ comes on and is like, "Oh, check out this new band. They're big in England, but they're from New York, and it's the Strokes." And then it's the first time I heard Last Night, and I was hooked from then. Like I immediately went out and I bought the CD the next day, and it became an instant favorite. The next album that I really like is a David Bowie album. David Bowie is one of my favorite artists of all time, maybe second only to the Beatles. And if you guys remember, I had a kitty cat by the name of Ziggy Stardust, and who tragically passed away. It's a whole thing. Rest in peace, Ziggy. But that being said, Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars is not my favorite David Bowie album. My favorite David Bowie album that I always go to is Aladdin Sane. It's kind of in his Ziggy Stardust era. This is the follow-up to Ziggy Stardust. I feel like everybody either goes Hunky Dory or they go Ziggy Stardust. I'm going Aladdin Sane. There's a lot of really solid songs on there. Cracked Actor is probably one of my favorite. Drive-In Saturday is great. Aladdin Sane. All right. So I'm not one for best ofs, but I do like the idea, like the concept of the best of, where it's like, oh, we'll just take some songs from here, 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 and then I can listen to it, and then I can figure out which ones I like, and then I can go find those albums. Um, Not the case with Prince. Prince's very best of is a very good, very best of. I feel like you get a nice coating of his career. Like you get this nice smorgasbord, if you will. People don't use that word very often, so I'm bringing it back just this once to describe this Prince very best of. You get the early stuff, you get the later stuff, and you get all the stuff in between. It's great. The only thing I wish it had on there was his song Seven. That's like my only complaint on this whole. All the other songs are great. So Prince's very best of was very instrumental in my early 20s. My next favorite album is by the band Black Rebel Motorcycle Club, and it is Howl. It is the third album, came out 2005, I believe, and Black Rebel Motorcycle Club were kind of this. I don't want to say garage. I guess they were kind of garage rocky, but they were very fuzzy, Jesus and Mary Cheney type guttural rock. And then here comes Howl, which was very blues and gospel inspired, and I love every single second of it. It's my favorite album by them. Definitely check it out if you haven't. The next album I've loved since I was 13, and it is Oasis, What's the Story, Morning Glory. I know a lot of people, especially if you're a diehard Oasis fan, they always go Definitely Maybe, which was the first album. I didn't discover Oasis until Wonderwall, like a lot of people in like 95, 96. I still listen to this album all the time. I love it. I love it. I love it. And I can't get enough of it. Don't Look Back in Anger is probably one of my favorite songs. Okay, so this next one is a little interesting. It is a local band to Atlanta. They're not a band anymore, sadly, but from the years of like 2006 to 2012, 2013, they were awesome. And in my opinion, they were probably the top band in the city of Atlanta. It's a band called The Boos, and it is their first album, Easy Beats in Modern Times. Now, if you're a fan of early Rolling Stones, early rhythm and blues, British mod type stuff, I highly recommend The Boos. It's very inspired of that early Mick Jagger, Van Morrison type stuff. Van Morrison was in a band called Them, if you guys are unaware. Like, his solo stuff is really popular, but he was in a band called Them, and they were pretty rockin'. So a lot of the early Stones, early Them stuff kind of inspired what The Boos is, or at least those first two Boos albums. The second two are just as good, but I always go the first two. All right, two left. So the next one that I really enjoy, that I've listened to a lot, and I actually haven't listened to it in a while, and I think I'm gonna listen to it today. Now that I'm making this list, is a Swedish band by the name of Mando Diao, and their album is called Bring 'Em In. It's the first one, and they kind of got mixed up and pushed to the side with this whole garage rock revival of the early 2000s. The Strokes were hitting it big. The White Stripes were hitting it big. There was another Swedish band that was hitting it big at the time, the Hives. They were kind of like right behind the Hives. Hives hit really big in America. Mando Diao did good, not great. And I was lucky enough to see them when they passed through Atlanta years and years ago. And this album is awesome. Highly recommended. Mando Diao, Bring 'Em In. And last but certainly not least is one of my favorite artists of all time. And oddly enough, this is another compilation. Sam Cooke's Portrait of a Legend. Now, again, I'm not really one for greatest hits, but this is one that like really works well as just like a whole album. I'm not even gonna lie. If I could have one person's voice over the last 100 years of music, it would be Sam Cooke. It was just effortless. Like, the man would just open up his mouth and music would just pour, just melody. And I'm jealous because I can't do that. So Sam Cooke, favorite singer for sure. A Change Is Gonna Come is quite possibly one of the greatest songs ever written. Check it out if you haven't. And that's it. That's Jordan Gasly's 10 influential albums from the Facebook challenge, whatever it's called. But yeah, so check them out if you haven't. Leave me a comment below if you're a fan of these. Even if you're not a fan of these, it's cool. Not everybody can like the same thing, right? Anyway, leave me a comment, and if you like the video, guys, please give it a thumbs up, and please share it on Facebook or Twitter or wherever it is you like to share the videos. I really appreciate it, and we'll see you real soon.